Yesterday, I told you that Karmelo Anthony would be guilty of murder. Today, earlier on social media, and yesterday, I told you he would be guilty of murder, not manslaughter. I'll explain in a little bit. This is exactly what needed to happen. Karmelo Anthony is guilty of murder. The jury has it right. I pray he gets 99 years. He intentionally murdered this guy. Really critical what I said yesterday about the Karmelo Anthony case. Listen closely. This is the story of the Karmelo Anthony family. Quote, rage, this is my writings, rage, hate, victimhood. The family says they moved from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where crime is 4 times higher than Frisco, Texas. They claim and they say they moved from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to get away and start a new life. Are they from freaking Kosovo? What are you talking about, a new life? Baton Rouge is America. You cannot, and the Karmelo Anthony family learned today, you cannot move away from your problems. Your problems will follow you. And that's exactly what happened in the Karmelo Anthony case. They brought the violence, the hate, the rage they had inside of them, at least in their son, to Frisco, Texas, where they met justice. This is not about race. This is about justice. This is about an angry, hateful, victimhood mentality family who enlisted a race baiter, bottom dweller, Dominique Alexander, the guy who's convicted of beating a black baby boy. His baby mama, who's black, says that he beat the hell out of her, and he has 10 to 13 charges, felonies, check hiding, all sorts of vile stuff. The many faces of Dominique, his mugshots over the years, it's unbelievable. They enlisted this race-baiting bottom dweller. They had a press conference with this guy. So outside of the court, I told you, the strategy was to make it all about race. Inside of the court was a more standard defense. There's no racial animus in this. The defense even said it in the case. There's no racial animus. There's no racial issues in this case. I told you the only defense was, I'm a victim. Why? Because I'm black. And we're going to go through the note. I'm going to go through the notes and all the fine stuff here because you have to hear how this went down. My prediction, and I told you this, would be murder, guilty, and I thank God that's the right decision to happen. Now, continuing on. The whole self-defense story is like OJ. He's like OJ Jr. And who the family is, by their actions, are race hustlers. That's who they hired or enlisted for them. The jury was very quick. That is horrible news for any defendant or defense in a criminal trial. Outside is about race. As I mentioned, Dominique Alexander, there's been one fight. People are saying there's going to be riots. Listen to me closely. There will be no riots. Only the crazy loon people, filled with massive hate and rage that were already like that a week or two ago, are going to be trying to do rioting. The average person, whether black or white, is not going to be rioting over this. This is justice. People that even supported OJ, this is beyond obvious that Karmelo Anthony is a murderer, and it's why he was just convicted of murder moments ago. Now, here's the difference between murder and manslaughter and why Karmelo Anthony righteously, if he was given manslaughter, it would only be not because it qualifies as manslaughter, but because the jury felt sorry for Karmelo Anthony because he was younger. That would be why they would come up with a compromise and a bogus charge of manslaughter. It did not meet the definition of manslaughter in the state of Texas. I will share that with you now. In Texas, murder is acting knowingly or intentionally. Did Karmelo Anthony act knowingly or intentionally to kill Austin Metcalf? Yes. All the witnesses say he put his hand in a bag. He said, touch me and find out. He provoked Austin Metcalf to attack him. He opened the knife inside of the backpack, and then as Austin Metcalf came to push him, he stabbed him in the chest, 2 inches deep, right here on the left ventricle of the heart. 2 inches deep, a gaping wound. Austin Metcalf fell back, lifted his shirt up, said, oh my God, and that was it. His face turned purple. He died. His eyes went in the back of his head. It was horrifying. Continuing on, and let me do a Marco Rubio moment and get a glass of water here. Continuing on, manslaughter. So this was knowingly and intentionally. This wasn't an accident. The defense tried to make it like it was an accident to get a lower charge of manslaughter by saying, oh, this is so vile. They claim that Metcalf pushed into the knife, as if it's Metcalf that went into the knife, not the knife going into him like that. What a disgrace and a joke. That's all they could do. This guy is guilty as all sin, which is why he's a murderer and convicted murderer now. That's what Karmelo Anthony's family. Karmelo Anthony's family, you brought the crime of Baton Rouge, you brought the homicide, you brought the racial animus that you have, the hate, and you cannot, I know I'm repeating, you cannot move away from your problems. You brought the violence, the hate, the rage to Frisco, Texas, and you met justice. Karmelo Anthony family, you met justice. Welcome to Collin County. Welcome to Texas. You met justice. That crap don't play here. Manslaughter, had they gotten manslaughter, would be any acting recklessly with a conscious disregard for life. Did Anthony act recklessly to cause Metcalf's death? He didn't act recklessly. He had a knife, he unfolded it, and he murdered the guy. It had to be murder, or they would be lying to themselves, the jury. Thank you, God. I'm serious. Murder now. Karmelo Anthony, the murderer, faces 5 years to life. My prediction is he'll get much closer to life because he's a freaking murderer. No riots, as I said. Why will there be no riots? Because the only people that will try to riot or want to riot are the crazy, far gone, hateful black people that are in the extreme minority, in my opinion. You're not going to get the average black person to riot over this, period. And yes, mark my word on that. There were no black jurors. That was another thing. Karmelo Anthony's team's going to try to appeal no matter what. Even if there were all black jurors, it wouldn't matter. They would still try to appeal. That's what you do when you're sentenced to death or sentenced to murder for life. And he didn't get death. He can't get death. Supreme Court says giving death to somebody who commits a crime like this at 17 is cruel and unusual punishment. No problem. 99 years. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Get out of here. The reason why there's no black jurors is there were 3 teachers that were black that made it to the smaller pool. But they're all teachers, and they were struck because they're teachers. And in fact, one of the many defense attorneys who's opined on this, not involved in the case, said that teachers, counselors, social worker types are usually struck because they're always sympathetic to the murderer. Is the jury afraid? That was one of the things people worried about, the jury being afraid. Like St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, who died from a drug overdose while in the custody of Minneapolis police. This is not a St. George Floyd case. That case is dastardly, evil, and Derek Chauvin should be released from prison and should be completely commuted on that sentence. He did not murder St. George Floyd. The jury was not afraid. Why did Karmelo, here's the other thing that you have, I told you this yesterday a little bit, but in the testimony, Karmelo's friend who was called to testify yesterday morning said that before Karmelo went under the tent and all this stuff happened, the murder happened, he and his friend went into a dugout. And one of the coaches came by and said, get out of the dugout, get out of here, while it was raining. Why didn't Karmelo Anthony stab and murder the coach? After all, he told him to get out. He chose to stab and murder Austin Metcalf. Justice for Austin Metcalf. Justice for Austin Metcalf. Justice for his brother Hunter Metcalf. Justice for his dad Jeff Metcalf. May God bless them. Do you know the sick, vile, race-hustling, racial animus black folks, it's like I said, it's a small percentage, that they've given like 30 or 40 grand more to Karmelo Anthony's family than people have given to Austin Metcalf's family in the GoFundMe, Give Some Go stuff. It's so sad, it's so sick, isn't it? That's okay. Karmelo Anthony can have some extra concessions at the concession stands. Maybe he can buy a Kit Kat when he's in prison once a week. Hey, enjoy it. You're a murderer, you're going to prison for life. The appeal, well, he'll lose. Karmelo Anthony's appeal on the murder charge, he'll lose. Even if it's about race, he's still going to lose. Let me see. Here we go also. Closing arguments. This is what transpired today. Just some notes and highlights from today. By the way, the defense only called like 3 witnesses. The prosecution was going to call up to like 30 or 25 witnesses. They ended up calling like 18, I think. But you have like 6 or 7 students who said everything and saw that Karmelo was the aggressor. Karmelo set it up. Karmelo was angry. He wouldn't move. I'll read you some of the quotes in a minute. But Karmelo murdered Austin Metcalf, and he was an angry, irate, hatred-filled, and vile-filled young man brought up by 2 people who I believe are angry, irate, hate-filled, and victimization, which is why they picked the Dominique Alexander to be the race-baiting bottom dweller to speak out on their behalf at a press conference. Just so vile, so sad. The prosecution in the closing argument said Carmelo Anthony's words were not a warning, they were a threat. Exactly right. He took a knife to a track meet and he kept it hidden. Remember, one of the witnesses said they could see Carmelo's veins as he was like holding it, like raging, before he'd stab and murder Austin Metcalf. He kept the knife hidden because it was all about the surprise and then murdering this guy. No weapons policy. He was the only one, Karmelo, with a knife. He was always going to come out on top, is what the defense said. Yes, because he brought that weapon. He was itching to use it. He was dying to use it. It all comes down to the prosecution's closing statements. It all comes down to one sentence. You don't get to meet a shove from Austin Metcalf with a stab, especially if you, Karmelo, provoke the shove, which is exactly what he did. That is murder. It's unjustified murder, the prosecution said this morning. If you find that he provoked it, Karmelo, self-defense is off the table. You cannot meet a shove that you provoked with a stab. Reasonable person would not have plunged a knife into Metcalf or met a shove with a stab. Prosecution's closing statements continue. Deadly force has to be immediately necessary. Where was the immediate necessity to plunge a knife into an unarmed man? Also, prosecution said Anthony did not show anyone the knife in a warning. In other words, I've got this weapon. Because let me tell you what I learned from legal experts as far as me carrying my firearm, lawyers who are experts in Second Amendment and concealed carry in the state of Texas. And the state of Texas taught me one of the good tactics if somebody's coming at me, I have a gun, I have a gun, I have a gun, get back, say it extraordinarily loudly. I have a gun, I'm armed, get back. You're warning them because you don't want to use your weapon. Karmelo was hiding it because he did want to use his weapon. Norman Bates. There had to be immediately necessary to use the weapon. Where was the immediate necessity to plunge the knife into an unarmed man? He didn't show anybody the knife in a warning. Instead, he reached into his bag, opened it in secret, and then stabbed. After the stabbing, he ran away. He slowed down to blend in, according to multiple witnesses that testified. He's got the guilty mindset because he is guilty as hell, and he was just found guilty of being a murderer. Anthony was serious about not moving out of the tent when confronted. He had in his mind what he was going to do. I'll read you some of the statements. He called them, I'll just say the word, he called them pussies and all sorts of stuff when they were saying, get out of our tent. He was told 15 times to get out of the tent. 15 times. He was going nowhere. He was going to stand his ground because he had a deadly weapon that he was man enough to use. He played a big man's game and he lost. Great job, Mom and Dad. You left Baton Rouge to come here so that your son could murder somebody just like in Baton Rouge, and he's in jail for the rest of his life. Great job, Mom. Oh, you're such victims. You raised up a murderer. You raised up a man that you would teach would be a victim of racial animus and hate when there is no victim. It's all in your head and your heart. Continuing on. Anthony was serious about not moving. He also said multiple witnesses testified that they heard Austin Metcalf say, I'm not going to fight you. Austin Metcalf, I'm not going to fight you, Karmelo. They also heard Anthony tell him, if you want me to move, Karmelo said, if you want me to move, you're going to have to move me. Provoking, provoking, provoking. And touch me and see what happens. Provoking, provoking, and then kill. The defense's theory that Metcalf, this is what I told you earlier, the defense's theory that Austin Metcalf impaled himself on Anthony's knife is ludicrous, obviously. I'm going to get to the defense and what they said today before this guilty verdict. Again, if you're just joining us, Karmelo Anthony guilty of murder, the exact right decision. Thank you, God, for justice. So we'll get to the defense in a moment and then some other highlights that are must here. But first, this show, Croc Talk with Chris Croc, is brought to you by IRSprob.com, IRSprob.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. Randy Martin and IRSprob.com have been my CPA for over almost exactly 10 years now. And let me tell you something, they're incredible. They're absolutely incredible at what they do. I got some major news this past year, 2025. I went out on my own. I'm my own boss, and Randy did spectacularly, surprised the hell out of me. Thank you, Randy. You're the best. Use him. Maybe you have a death in the family, and there's some tax issues with that. Maybe you're behind in your taxes. Maybe you want a great tax planner. Randy Martin. Go to IRSPROB.com or call 214-214-3000. That's 214-214-3000. I suppose I should turn my phone on mute. I'm doing this in real time with the verdict coming down, so I'll turn that off. This is as real and raw as it gets. Okay. Also, who has done all of my plumbing and foundation work on my house since I moved into it 11 years ago? Due West Foundation and Plumbing. Due West Foundation and Plumbing started in the 70s, and with Jim Dutton's dad. Jim took over the business. Jim's sons, Adam and Johan, have been working for the business, I'm going to guess, for about 12 years. We're friends with them. My wife worked for 3 years at Due West Plumbing and Foundation. Every bit of plumbing and foundation at my house has been done by them. They did root shields, keeping all the roots from going under my house. They did 17 foot of pipe under my house, replaced it because it was going out bad. And when you do that, you have to pull all that dirt out. It can't go back the way it was. You have to put piers in there for the foundation. They saved my foundation from having to be repaired. They tested my plumbing before I moved in the house to give me the okay. They've replaced my water heater, everything. You now have a plumber and foundation company. They do retention walls, concrete leveling, plumbing, foundation. If you want the best, call Due West. Go to du-west.com. That's du-west.com, or call 972-406-0912, 972-406-0912. Tell them Chris Crock sent you to both Due West Foundation and Plumbing and IRSProb.com. Now, the defense. Here we go. The defense was claiming in its closing statements that the wound was consistent with a hasty action in self-defense. Do you turn your back, the defense said this morning in the closing statements, do you turn your back and walk away? Or will these boys grab you from behind when you can't defend yourself? This is at a public track meet with presumably a couple hundred people at it. Teachers, cops. So he's acting like that this was done in a dark alley or something like that. There's 3 people and there's nobody else. It's all just a joke. This is why they lost, and Karmelo is guilty of murder. Also, they claim something that can help in self-defense with deadly force, particularly in Texas, that Austin Metcalf is 6 inches taller than Karmelo, and that Karmelo is 83 pounds heavier, that Austin Metcalf is 83 pounds heavier. But watch this. Watch my analysis on something. The defense also says, why would Karmelo provoke a fight with a kid so much bigger? With a twin, Hunter Metcalf right there, so much bigger, with other teammates around. You know why? Why would he do this? Because he was armed with a deadly weapon. Karmelo did this and had the boldness to go up against this guy who's bigger than him because he was armed with a deadly weapon. He wanted to fight. He wanted to stab. He wanted his street cred. He had brought the Baton Rouge 4 times higher crime rate with him. That's why Austin Metcalf. Why would he do this? They're bigger. Because he had a deadly weapon in secret and he popped it out and murdered Austin Metcalf with him. That's why. He was big-minded on campus because he had a knife. Okay? That's exactly why. And then the defense even admitted, quote, in their closing today, it's not about race as much as it's about people outside want to make it, the people outside. Oh, you mean the race hustlers that the Carmelo Anthony family enlisted to do the race pimping? You think? I've got so much more here. I got other facts and things that have come out through the trial that are very important for me to put on top of this. The first thing I want to do is tell you that I have a brand new roofer who is doing all my roofing. Blue Ribbon Roofing, blueribbondfw.com. I did not think I needed a roof. I got one 7 years ago. Guess what? We went up on the roof, and John Hopkins, the owner of Blue Ribbon Roofing, it's John Hopkins, his wife Tish, Trevor, his son, and Jenna, his daughter-in-law, and they're running it. Obviously, they got a lot of people that do the work and supervise and stuff, but they run this company, and they run it amazingly. John is incredible. John showed me this, and said, look, here, you got this. And I'm like, okay. But still, not until I called my insurance company, USAA, which is a great company. They're on the roof with John, and she said, yes, Chris, you do need a new roof, the adjuster. And by the way, they do a lot of USAA at Blue Ribbon Roofing, and that means they're really, really good because people with USA and USA Insurance are the best. They've been in business for 32 years. They win Best of McKinney year after year after year. They're A+ business rating with the BBB. They are Angie's List top 1. Go look at the reviews. 500 plus on each different site, 5 stars. That is Blue Ribbon Roofing. They've already done work on my house with replacing some of the pinged and dented aluminum in certain areas. Incredible work. BlueRibbonDFW.com. That's BlueRibbonDFW.com. Tell them Chris Crock sent you to Blue Ribbon Roofing. Okay, here's my notes that are little highlights from during the trial that are relevant to right now today. With Karmelo Anthony being found guilty of murder, pray that he gets 99 years. Throw his ass in jail for what he did. He's a cold-blooded, rage-filled, hate-filled murderer. He brought he brought Baton Rouge with him. His parents did. They thought they could leave their problems behind. The problems aren't left behind. You bring them with you. Okay, some highlights from during the trial to kind of really finish the flavor of how this all went down. Rage, hate, victimhood. They brought Baton Rouge with them when they moved to Frisco, Texas. Their whole self-defense story is like O.J. Jr. They enlisted a race hustler, as I told you about. That shows you the character of Karmelo Anthony's family and who they are. They believe in the lies and the sickness of race hustlers. Anthony was asked to leave the tent 15 times, and he wouldn't leave because he was ready to start a fight and use a knife. He's a man-child. He played a big man's game, Karmelo Anthony did. And then he gets arrested, by the cop. And he put his hands on me, which is a little child, a little teeny child about this tall. He's a man-child. Karmelo said under that tent, quote, to Austin Metcalf, "I'll beat your ass." Karmelo Anthony challenged Metcalf to a fist fight. He was unafraid. Oh, why would he had to use deadly force because Austin Metcalf is 80 pounds more than him and 6 inches taller. Is that why he said, "I challenge you to a fist fight"? And then Metcalf said, quote, "I'm not going to fight at a track meet." That's according to all these witnesses that testified. Austin Metcalf asked why Karmelo Anthony was at the Memorial High School tent. He recalled, one of the witnesses recalled Anthony saying, "You're not going to move me," Anthony said. "You're not going to move me," to Austin Metcalf. "You're a bitch." The witness told jurors that Austin was defending us, our tent. Also, Karmelo said, "Y'all are ass." What else? He said, "I'm not leaving." These are all the witnesses yesterday. Quote, "I'm not leaving." Quote, "Fuck y'all." Excuse my language. "Y'all a bunch of pussies. Y'all not going to do nothing about it," when he was asked to leave. And then he reached into his backpack, takes it off, places it on his lap, and then boom, the hand comes out, boom, and murders Austin Metcalf. Austin didn't, I'm going to stop. This is justice. This is real justice for the vile act that happened, the unthinkable act that happened. This is justice. Throw him in jail for life. Good job, Mom and Dad. You raised a murderer. Good job. Yeah. Yeah, you're the victim. You're the victim. The murderer is the victim. DEI, anyone? Joke. Austin, quote, "didn't deserve what happened." The prosecutor said it was murder, what happened, right? And the witness said, "Yes, sir." I'm sorry, the witness said Austin didn't deserve what happened. And the prosecutor asked the witness, "It was murder what happened, right?" And the witness said, "Yes, sir." And then the prosecution asked the witness, was Anthony provoking? Was he the aggressor? Karmelo Anthony, was this self-defense? And the witness said, no, Karmelo Anthony committed murder. Another young witness said Anthony was provoking Metcalf. When you provoke into them assaulting you and then you murder them, you're a murderer, you're not a victim. Prosecutor said he asked the young man who was testifying, this is another witness, if he thought the stabbing was self-defense. No, the witness replied, why? Because it's lethal force against non-lethal force. Even these young kids in high school know exactly what the truth is. This is God's justice. Thank you, God. This show's been brought to you by IRSprob.com, IRSPRB.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies.